Bill, this is Daisy. I don't know if you got me.
I sure did, Daisy.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Well, I see Angel just came in. And Crystal came in. And we're just looking for Yaniko. And Carla. Okay, so we still got a couple. Hopefully they'll get here.
Professor, did you check me in? It's
Sure
Angelica
did.
Stewart.
That's
Thank you.
first person I saw. You got on the sunglasses so I can
Yeah.
see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you can all open up your window shades because I want to be able to talk with you today. And we're going to be talking about Southwest. So I'll wait while you all open them up. These are people I haven't seen before.
Professor, can you repeat that?
Can I do what?
Can you repeat that? What do you want us to open?
I want you to open your window shade so I can see you.
Oh.
In fact, I even said that make sure you're not in your robe tonight. This is Dress for Success.
Yeah, basically turn on your camera.
Yes. So this is what we're going to be doing this evening. And Noel, Oscar, and Daisy, and Crystal.
I'm on my phone. I'm turning on the settings, the camera on from the settings.
Okay. And that's Crystal talking, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, tonight we're going to be talking about Southwest Airlines. Now, I've picked out 4 different cases that really are 4 exciting companies that are doing things right. The first one, of course, is going to be Southwest. The second one will be Enterprise Rent-A-Car. The third one will be IKEA. And finally, we'll look at Dell's cash flow problems, which is a little bit different, but we'll see how they've developed a strategy based on how they handle their money. But I think all of you at least are familiar with Southwest Airlines, and I suspect most of you have flown at one time or another on Southwest. Has anybody had that experience?
I've never flown.
Yep, never gotten. I've flown, but not on Southwest ever.
Yes, I have.
I have.
Okay. And what are some of the characteristics that you notice? And I'll ask you just if you noticed them while you were flying on them, but I'm going to ask, Andrew, you say you've never flown at all?
Yeah, I've never been on a plane, but I've always wanted to though.
Okay, well, we'll have to find out when they've got a super cheap flight from Ontario to Oakland, and you can make that as a round trip.
Yeah, they're very cheap right now, I hear.
Yeah, you gotta pick them right. You gotta have to shop a little bit on their website, but you can deal directly with Southwest, and that's one of their characteristics. But I want, as you have either seen ads or know from prior experience, or if you've read the case, which I hope you have, you should be able to come up with some areas where they've done some trade-offs. So that's what I want to explore today. And I'd like to get as many of you involved in that conversation as we can.
Would their low-cost pricing be one of their trade-offs?
Yes, and there's a whole host of things that they do in order to guarantee that low price.
Right. I think one of them was like not offering food, or other one was like picking their routes so that they will only do certain routes at certain times.
Well, yeah, but
And then they would do more routes than other ones. So it was less cities, but more consistently. So people would just be able to go at any time they wanted.
Okay, I want to dwell on this low price for a minute, but then Andre, I want to come back to the frequent flights in just a moment. But Veronica, or V, the low price is something just like Walmart, that they're committed to everyday low price. Now, if you've read the case, you'll notice also that they will do variable pricing. And that means that in peak hours, you're going to pay more. But if we get, where did Andrew, if we get you one of those cheap flights, you may be flying at night, but we can get you back and forth for a pretty cheap fare. Now, as far as Andre, you said that they were doing 2 things, that they were frequent flights, and there was something else that you pointed out.
It was, yeah, one of those was frequent flyers, right?
Yeah.
To certain cities, and then the other one was obviously the one that says barrel pricing, because if we go back to the order book, he commented on how it ended up being that the founder needed to go do maintenance on one of those flights, and he decided, if I have to go to another city, might as well try to get some money out of it. And that's why he sent a mass things like, yo, just come in, we'll do it for cheap. I think it was like $12 $12 for that night compared to the standard fare. And then because he saw that the plane was full, he decided to change the barrel pricing. So now they increase the regular pricing that we do, but then on off hours, they will drop it consistently.
Yeah. And there was a part of what the consistently low prices. There was a time when one of the board of directors said, couldn't we just kick up the price a little bit? At that time, there was a company called Braniff Airlines. And they were charging probably triple what Southwest was charging for the same route. And the president of the company at that time, of Southwest, said, no, we don't want to increase the price because we're not competing against Braniff. We're competing against people who take the bus.
Right, that's what I was saying, yeah. Yeah.
So it's important that they be consistent with the way it's important to make that trade-off. They're going to say, we'll walk away from passengers that would be willing to pay more in order to guarantee that we can service the people who can't afford to pay more, but still want to fly. So that is a conscious trade-off that they've made.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And they've been consistent about it.
I think that's what makes them one of the biggest airlines also, is that they've been consistent about it.
They've done two things. They've been consistent in the way they've followed through on their strategic initiative, but they also have separated themselves. And Andre, this is where they're using kind of like a blue ocean strategy. They're looking for bus riders.
Right, yeah.
And therefore they're not competing. It's people who want to fly, but they're not competing against the business traveler or the vacation that's taking that big trip that we do once in our lifetime. Now you'll find that they have gone in some directions toward getting a business traveler, but they've done it a very unique way. So what the blue ocean people would say is, hey, look, our market, you know, I can put my arm around the market. It's all business travelers and vacationers. And the blue ocean people will say, no, there's a whole segment out here that just wants cheap airfare. They don't want to have to drive the bus. So they've found a way to tap that, and they've been successful with it.
All right.
Well, I've asked you to come up with 10 things that represent a trade-off. And Vanessa, have you ever heard of Kilroy?
No, I haven't.
Back in the Second World War, when the Seabees, those are the construction battalions that went into the islands out in the Pacific, consistently what they did was they had a little picture that they would draw. It said Kilroy was here, and it showed a man from here up, just from his nose up. And he had two hands over the fence that he was looking over, kind of like the guy in the Home Improvement. You know, there was always a neighbor that you could just see his nose. That's all I can see of you.
Yeah, I'm on my iPad because my laptop died.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm sorry.
So
I'll try
don't
and
be
reposition it
sorry.
now.
Don't be sorry, but you can be like Kilroy and or the guy in Home Improvement and just look over the top of the fence. So what other trade-offs have they decided to make?
They decided not to grow exponentially like other airlines. So
Okay.
they don't grow bigger than their means compared to other ones. So they always, when they expand, it's strategically, and then they're very conservative about it.
And what do you think about that as a strategic move? And particularly since you're playing a game where you have to contemplate how quickly
Right.
you want to expand.
It's interesting because if you expand too fast, then you might encounter that either you're too big to sustain what you actually make, so your rentability might be low, or you're getting so big that you're not able to produce what you need to produce, and then your competitors can jump in and then take that void, basically.
I think it turned out there was a big flim flam, but there's a company, I think it was called WeWork,
Right, that was one of those. Yeah, that they pretty much went under because of that.
and they grew exponentially, and finally it turned out it was all pretty much a
Hot
flim
air,
flam.
yeah.
So, Dejan, what did you come up with anything that was a trade-off? You were the first guy to buy the case study, incidentally.
Hey,
I want to acknowledge that.
couple of them already said, but I thought it was kind of interesting with the cheaper fare or the more expensive fare, you get the bottle of liquor, the whiskey. I thought that was kind of interesting to they'll still take care of you getting the cheaper fare, but although they do kind of want to grow more, they don't want to burden you with a higher price. So it was kind of interesting how they kind of gave you the bottle of liquor with the more expensive fare.
Okay, that was that was a unique thing there back in the early days, and Andre made a comment on that about if the guy's going to fly, better to get something than have just an empty plane flying, and that led to the bottle of liquor with the more expensive ticket.
Another thing they do is they invest in their employees. So like the employees can actually buy into the stock, and then they're also unionized. So they're highly committed to the well-being of the company.
Well, people who are in unions are not necessarily highly committed to the company, but they
No, right, but they have that, but they also have the stock. They can own stock. The stock buyout for them.
Yeah, they have embraced the unions, but this is an interesting situation, and I don't know how much you know about how business and labor work together and at cross purposes. But usually you have labor on one side trying to maximize their income, and you have management on the other side trying to maintain a profit margin.
Right, yeah. And they usually clash between each other. I heard about that. Yeah.
But in their case, both people sit on the same side. They're interested in the long-term success of the company. And this is something that you only build the right to having that kind of relationship over time. You have to earn that. Now, how much did they earn it?
It was like 13 to 15%.
Well, what I was thinking of, how much did they earn, not in terms of how much they saved or how much they gave to the employees, but how much loyalty did they earn? There was a time when Southwest went through some financial difficulties, and the employees purchased a plane and gave it to the company. And that's people that are interested in the success of the company. Hello,
Right.
Crystal. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Okay. Think about their route schedules, and I want to get somebody besides Andre, because I know he mentioned it initially that they fly more frequently. But what are some of the other characteristics that represent a decision to go in one direction rather than another direction? That you can't work at cross purposes.
Professor?
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt anybody else. Somebody else talking.
Well, you're not.
I read that their turnaround time was a lot shorter than other airlines.
Okay.
Because yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. But let's pursue that for a minute. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I read that their staff, their gate crew was 50% smaller than other airlines.
Okay, so that's one of the benefits from that faster turnaround is they can use a smaller gate crew. Now there's another aspect to it, Alejandro, and let's pursue that for a moment. Why would they be able to get people to do it? that way.
Don't they have the plane specifically designed so they could unload the waste from the plane and the luggage at the same time?
Okay, yeah, actually, it sounds kind of peculiar, but they can unload the toilet and put on the new food with the same setup, but that slows things down.
The reason they were actually able to do it is because there was no reserved seating, so it was first come first serve. So they didn't have to be like, you know how when you go to an airline they usually call people based on the seat they're at. Now they could just call everybody. Everybody walked in and then they said whatever they wanted.
Okay,
So that caused a lot of.
That's
Yeah.
going to load people up on the plane quicker.
Yeah.
Alejandro says that they will use less people to service the plane. And Oscar says, well, one of the things they've done is redesign the way they service the plane. And that meant going to Boeing and getting them to redesign the plane.
Right,
Yeah.
it changes for them, yeah.
The idea was that they were they use a service module that goes out to the plane, and that's where they take in the food. And then they have to back that away and they bring up another service unit that empties the toilets. And so what they did is had them change the panel so they could go up with 2 service modules or service units simultaneously and increase the turnaround time. But Alejandro, this still doesn't answer the question why people are willing to do it. You know, if you go to another airline and they've got a plane coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have to have a special guy there with the 2 sticks that have the lights in them, telling the plane to come in. Now, why does Southwest not have to do that?
Well, I'm sorry, what was your question?
You cite that they have a smaller crew, 50% smaller crew, and that's one of the reasons they can turn around faster. But why are they not running into union problems where the union says, hey, look, the guy with the 2 flashlights that tells the plane where to come in and makes it move in one direction or another as it comes in for the gate, to the gate. Why are they able to have somebody do that when it's not part of his job description? Or how can they convince a pilot? Let's see. Okay, they're trying to lower operating costs and higher ticket prices. But again, how do they accomplish this? What is the thing that permits them to do it that I'll guarantee you no other airline could get to have happen?
Employee loyalty?
It's part of that. It's going back to this idea of sitting on the same side of the table. If
Right.
everyone is, if we look at it, you know, when you are disciplining somebody in a company, Andrew, let's hang on to that. I guess everybody can see that, can't you?
Yeah,
Well,
customer service, yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. When you're disciplining somebody, one of the things that you want to do is to look at the problem that you've got with that individual as distinct from the individual. You don't want to go head to head. You know, you did this wrong. What you want to do is take a look at the situation and say, well, you know, what could we have done to make this work out better, so that the problem is the situation and not the individual. And it's the same thing if you've got employee relations that way. Everybody's looking at the problem of how do we make the enterprise successful, and therefore you get a better back and forth. You don't get the confrontation that you typically have if you come at somebody. Hey,
Right, because you don't want to be like, you don't want to think bad. You want them to work with you, not against you, right?
Right, and that takes a lot of discipline to be able to do that. It takes a lot of discipline, and as I said, I'll guarantee you that no other airline has been successful at doing it. And if you look today, this last week, I believe it was United had laid off 30,000 people because they got to cut back because they can't keep the planes full. The people are afraid to fly, which is a shame because it's no big deal to fly. I mean, you're not going to get COVID when you have your mask on and social distance and all the rest of that stuff. But Southwest has said they're going to give some furloughs. They're going to give some time off, but they're going to keep everybody employed. And that's a commitment for the health of the enterprise. So I want to come back, Alejandro, when we got those people out there. How do they accomplish this? Well, I guess I've given you partially an answer. It's because they've treated people in a way that they realize they're all working on the same side of the table. Now, what's the turnaround time for Southwest?
Isn't it 15 minutes?
15 minutes. And there's a discussion, I believe, about that, and I can't remember whether it's in the book or in the case, but why are they able to turn around in 15 minutes and nobody else can?
Because they have different people, like the same people doing multiple jobs. So they have either the pilots checking bags, or they have the waitress also helping with the cleaning and stuff. They don't have to bring in more people to have specialized jobs.
Okay, so did you read in the book about why they went to 15 minutes in the first place?
In the Porter book, I know that one of them was obviously the changing of with the Boeing, going back to Boeing and having them change the thing to the other side.
Yeah, they did that, but there was a need. There was a situation, and again, I can't remember whether it's in the book or in the case or something that I've read. Either one of those.
I don't think it was in the. At least I haven't seen it on the book. On the chapter that said that. Might be on the case. I'm still kind of reading through the case, but from I don't see if it's why they did it. Maybe someone else.
Well, let's see about if somebody else has got an idea.
Yeah, they might be able to help me out on that one.
Josh or Abel, did you ever notice why they had gone to that 15-minute turnaround? Daniel, how about you? Daniel Lucero, how about you?
Morning.
For the 15-minute turnaround?
Yeah.
No, I didn't really see. I thought it was just like because everybody was helping. I didn't really know like the specific reason of why.
Yeah, I don't think it's on the case anyway. I think you might have seen it somewhere else.
It's a subtle thing that happened, but they almost went broke. And they got to the point, and this all ties in with the liquor and the cheap flights. But it turned out they had to sell one of their planes. They had 3 planes, and in order to keep going, they had to sell one of them. And with 2 planes, they couldn't make enough money to stay open. And that's just kind of like these restaurants now, that they can't make money at 25%. But I heard some guy in upstate New York on TV, and he was saying, look, if we can just stay open 50%, what we'll do is rather than closing down on Mondays or Tuesdays, which is typically what a restaurant will do, we'd stay open. And whereas we might typically be seasonal, we'll just make sure we just work all the way through the year. And even at 50%, we can begin to make some money. And this is the same thing with Southwest, that they had this situation where the only way they could make money or even just keep marking time was to make that plane fly more routes. And the way you make it fly more routes is to spend less time on the ground. So they found that they could do it in 15 minutes. So they said, well, we did that. Let's make that our policy. So everything that you all have mentioned is part of that process of making that policy work. But it was the initial decision to do it in 15 minutes came about because they were going to go broke if they didn't. So maybe that's a lesson for the people that are shut down in New York or other places and can only serve on the sidewalk. We can get by with it out here in California because we got decent weather all year round. But somebody in New York is going to get in real trouble in about 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to get too cold for people to sit outside. So Jordan, what's the advantage of turning around in 15 minutes? How does this help you?
The faster you can turn around, the more flights you can have in the air, the more people are buying flights.
Bingo.
The more money you're making.
Yeah, that's one of the keys to success. Is we make money when the plane's flying. We don't make money when it's sitting at the gate. Now, here's a tougher question for you.
Okay.
Well, I hope you'll get some help with this because it's a subtle thing. But why can't the other companies turn around in 15 minutes?
Well, isn't Southwest Planes more specialized for this? And then having having the same people doing multiple jobs, if other airlines are having more people doing the same jobs that Southwest is doing, it's just more cluttered because you're having more people do it?
It's well, clearly one of the things is that they've got this better labor relationship. So they can get people to cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other things as well. And Trish, you said something about tickets. What was your thought there? You got to turn on, either use sign language or turn on your.
I was telling them they have to be quiet before. I'm not gonna yell while
That's okay.
down on mute.
Your kids are always welcome. Like, for all of you. This is an informal gathering.
I appreciate that. Some of the things in regards to the tickets was, if I'm not mistaken, I read about Southwest in another class too, so I might get them confused. But they were doing tickets while on the plane was one of them, rather than at the gate, which was on the floor, was one of the reasons why they can do a turnaround really fast, as well as I think they were doing automated ticket booths rather than, on like computers rather than with another employee from Southwest.
Well, now I think that the people that did the ticketing on the plane may have been People's Express. Does that ring a bell with you? You ever heard that name before?
People's Express? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, that was really the progenitor before there was a Southwest. But the idea of getting your tickets out of a kiosk does improve the flight time or the turnaround time. That's one of their significant advantages, is they have chosen to use the not use travel agents. And you remember I mentioned travel agents with Continental earlier this week. And the problem with Continental is Continental was paying travel agents, and it was costing about $8 a ticket. So going into a competitive situation with Southwest, which is what Continental wanted to do with Continental Light, they started out with $8 in the hole because they had to do that give up with the travel agent. And so one of the trade-offs that Southwest made was we will only ticket through our own website. And so that gives them an advantage. It's maybe a little inconvenient for the ticket holder. However, if you've ever tried to ticket something through Orbitz or Travelocity, man, it is not easy. It's not easy. How does
maybe that's why I never phoned Southwest, because I usually use Orbitz and they're not there. So yeah. Because they're not there, maybe that's why I never use them.
Andre, you may start saving some money now when we get you hooked up to go direct. But there's another characteristic. How if I say the word point to point or hub and spoke. Does that mean anything to you?
Point to point does. The other one, not really.
Okay. Anyone else?
Southwest, they didn't have a hub for the connecting flights. You'd land there, go to the other place. Instead, they were straight to the place you had to go.
Yes. So that is a characteristic. And this is a trade-off that they've made. Going point to point, it means that what they take is going to go from point A to point B, whereas the competition can gather people, say if it was a United flight that goes to New York, they could pick up people in Santa Barbara and San Diego and maybe even in from Fresno or Bakersfield to accumulate them and then send a whole big 747 full of people to New York. How big is the plane for Southwest?
They're usually smaller, right?
Yeah,
They're smaller, right?
in fact, they use only one plane.
Was it a 737?
Yep, that's what it is.
Okay.
It's a 737, and they use that on all their flights. Now think about Alejandro, when you're talking about getting people to do stuff faster. If you've got one type of plane, what's your learning horizon? How long does it take you to get acquainted with what you're going to be doing?
Really fast, because it's
Yeah.
only one plane. So
Yeah.
you come in next.
I had a flight one time I was taken from New York out here to the West Coast, and the pilot got stuck in traffic. And what do? Well, all we did was we waited. But with Southwest, hey, they got another pilot in reserve because they can take any pilot and put him on there because they all fly 737s. This happened to be a 747. And so you had to have a very specialized pilot and specialized crew to fly that. But it gives them flexibility because you don't have to have different skill sets.
So they basically use the assembly line theory or the methodology with flights, in a sense.
Yeah, they do. They do. And so from a manning point of view, they got a lot fewer people they got to have available.
Right.
If somebody gets sick in one of the big airlines, they got to go to the Rolodex and they got to compare. Has he flown too many hours so far this month? Because they've got a limit as how many they can fly. Do we have some? Oh, he can fly an L-1011, but he doesn't know how to fly the 747. So it gives a lot of flexibility. But the idea of what's another characteristic of I got to accumulate people. And do we have some frequent flyers here? Are any of you frequent flyers?
I wouldn't call myself frequent, but I fly a couple times.
Yeah, but you don't know Southwest, so.
Right.
You don't,
But
count,
usually-
you don't count this.
I just flew with them. Yesterday actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where were you? Where were you to and from?
I was from Ontario to Reno.
Wow.
Yeah, with the stop at Oakland, both ways.
Okay. So it was Reno to Oakland, and then from there to Ontario.
Yes.
Did you have to change planes, or was it a single flight?
Yeah, I had to change planes, but it was like probably like the most I waited was like 35 minutes before I boarded the next plane.
Okay, and that's again, that's what you're looking at is longer times where you've got connecting flights.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any money back, Alejandro, for your lost baggage?
No, I didn't. They lost it in Chicago, and then they said it somehow got onto a different plane, and then I never heard anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can look on YouTube, and there's a musical called United Breaks Guitars, I believe is what it's called, where a fella who's a professional musician had his guitar on in the baggage claim, and they busted it. And it took him 1.5 years to get money back. In the meantime, when they finally had told him, tough luck, pal, he put out this YouTube that was excoriated United for the way they treated him. And after it went viral, he got all the settlement he needed for it. So it's United Breaks Guitars. So take a look at that one. Let me know what you think. But one of the things, if you do frequent flying, what you'll notice is that early morning flights are generally on time. What happens during the course of the day? I'll tell you what it looks like at the end of the day.
It gets busier.
Huh?
It gets busier.
It gets busier, and then what you run into is there's flight delays. And by the end of the day, you may be 35, 40, maybe even 40 minutes, maybe an hour behind. So what are you looking at? What are some of the things that would cause that to happen? Because it happens regularly.
Weather.
Having to attend more people, maybe?
Who said weather?
Me, Noelle Olson.
Okay, no, and Jordan, you said it as well?
Yes.
Okay, so weather's one, and then someone else said something.
I did. I said maybe having to attend more people since it gets busier.
Well, what was the word you said about people?
Having to attend more people since it gets busier.
Well, it's going to be attending more people, and that may slow things down. But what they run into, there's 3 things that they run into that I'm aware of. Weather, air traffic delays, because
Right, which is out of the control. If there's more flights, that they have to wait their turn.
Yep. So, and then they put you in the bullpen or the penalty box and let you sit there. And I don't know whether you know it, Andre, but when they push away from the gate, they consider that the time that the plane left. So you may get into kind of a situation where they push away from the gate and put you in the penalty box, and you sit there for 45 minutes. But the flight, as far as the records that they submit to the FAA, it showed it was an on-time departure because they pushed you away from the gate on time.
I've had that before, but then one time, and then I lost a flight. But then I made American Airlines basically pay for my hotel. So there's that. So I got a 2-day vacation in Miami. So
you must be one of those high-priced flyers, because when the cheapo flights, they tell you take a hike, we're not going to give you anything. We won't even give you a free meal.
Not really. I mean, I just know how to argue with people, so I got my way through that.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, because they wanted to put me on another plane because it was an international flight. So I never fly like expensive flights. So it was an international flight, and it was their problem. It was their mistake. And because it was throughout that, they wanted to send me to another country, wait there for like 8 hours, and then fly me back to my actual destination. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going, like, you have to meet me halfway somewhere. And then that's why they paid for my hotel stay for like 2 days.
Okay, well, so you're one of the lucky ones, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it.
I was lucky because I wasn't going to wait 8 hours in like a random airport somewhere.
Oh, I have. But there are 3 things: weather, mechanical, and air traffic control. And all
mechanical is a big one.
And well, and it could be an odd thing for mechanical. I was on a plane one time in the middle of winter, and they were de-icing the plane, and one of the crew went to it was one of the big planes, and 747 or something like that, and he opened the door on the side of the plane that's just over the wing, and he accidentally hit the button, and this big chute came out for emergency evacuation. Well, that guaranteed we were waiting another 2 or 3 hours. They'd put us on another plane. I don't know whether the guy kept his job or not, but it was okay to open the door and see how they were doing with the de-icing, but don't hit the button that makes the emergency chute.
Yeah, so far it's only happened once where I was flying and then the plane had to stop and have like maintenance for like 45 minutes. That was extra 45 minutes from the flight, but other than that, it was like still regular stuff.
Yeah. Trish just asked a question about frequent flyer programs. Of course, Southwest has one. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's based on now the number of miles that you fly. But that was one of the things with Continental. They had the frequent flyer program for regular flyers and a very much reduced flyer program for the Continental Light people, which just is another thing to irritate customers. So as I said, with these three characteristics that slow everything down, you can pretty well count on every day having the flights get late as you go through the day. And that means the airlines have to plan on that as part of their activity. They're going to accumulate, if they've got a hub and spoke system, they're going to be accumulating people, and their flight from LA to New York might be all ready to go on time, but because that flight coming in from Fresno to join up with them is 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late, it increases the amount of time they have to wait until they take off. So what you'll usually find if you go through Orbitz or Travelocity or Kayak or whomever, they won't schedule your flights less than 45 minutes apart. So if you've got to go make a plane transfer in Denver or in Salt Lake, you can guarantee that you're going to have 45 minutes. So that means that they've got 45 minutes on the ground to make sure they get all their people in there. And that puts them at a competitive disadvantage against Southwest. So if we look at the other concept I mentioned to you was fit. And if you realize that they've got an advantage because they can turn around in 15 minutes. And the reason they can do that is it's point to point. They are not waiting to collect people from a variety of different areas. They are not involved in connecting flights except in, was it Vanessa that was in Reno?
Yeah.
Okay, she had a connecting flight. But typically you won't have those kinds of delays, and that means that they can schedule for a 15-minute turnaround, whereas an equally competent crew from United has to wait 45 minutes. Or with American, they got to wait 45 minutes to collect their people. And that is a big advantage, that the fact that they can turn around that quickly means that they get a lot more flight time, and this fits with that trade-off fits with how they make money. Now, what else do they trade off?
What about like the only coach seating? Did you guys talk about that already?
No, we didn't talk about that only, but this is a characteristic. It's a trade-off that they make. It irritates some people because people want an assigned seat. But what they've said is we'll give up some of those passengers who need to make them feel good, an assigned seat. And in exchange for that, what we're going to do is we'll give a cheaper seat. So everything that they do, there's a trade-off, and there is some kind of a benefit that comes about on account of it. Well, I had intended to do this in a half hour, but we've been talking for an hour. I'd like to have all of you for the rest of this semester, because we're going to be doing more of this kind of thing. Get involved, because this, as I mark you off here, I'm giving you participation points. And just, Woody Allen says 80% of success is just showing up. And I really appreciate the fact that you're showing up, and you do get credit for that. But you get double credit when you get involved in the conversation. So I gave you an assignment, and I'm going to stop with our conversation now on this. But I gave you an assignment to get 10 different trade-offs with Southwest.
It's an announcement, right? Because I think I saw an announcements.
What's that?
It was on announcements, right? Because I was looking at the
Yeah. And between now and tomorrow night, what I've been doing is I'm in another training session myself. And I'm trying to get rid of all of the angst of trying to use Blackboard. And so now they've introduced Canvas to help me keep my high level of confusion. But I figured out two things today. And one of them is how to have you submit your listing. And I hope you're taking notes, because if you don't have all 10 down, you could have picked up some in our conversations. And I'll send you a place to send that to me so I can check you off and give you credit for it towards your grade. That was one thing I learned. The other thing, I learned how to take the Zoom reports that or Zoom classes that we've had. I found out how to put it on YouTube.
Okay.
So I'll be able to give you some specific places to go if you want to review that. Brittany, Bishop is being very cooperative today.
That's because he's asleep.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna let you go. And now the next time when you come in, I want you really to be prepared to have done an analysis and make some recommendations for Southwest.
I have a question. So when are we supposed to turn in the list of 10 things that they do differently?
If I get it all done, you'll get an announcement tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And then you just turn it in. That's it. And
By tomorrow morning or by next class?
Sometime tomorrow. And
Okay.
this is not sophisticated. It's just to kind of get you thinking about what the trade-offs actually mean and how is that a benefit to a company.
Okay.
But we're going to look at it specifically with respect to that case study. And you got to be really familiar with what's going on in there. I'm going to show you some marvelous things that Southwest has. They're very humorous. Some of them are very humorous. The president, for example, on Easter, would go on and ride on the plane in a bunny suit, handing out candy to everybody on the plane. And that's a president of a Fortune 500 company. So thank you for getting involved today, and I do want to do more of that.
Okay.
All of you. And Yaniko, I saw that you did come in. And let's just check Carla Gutierrez. And I guess that's it. So have a good evening. And I'll look forward to having a very good conversation on Tuesday.
I have a question regarding the simulation quiz. There's going to be at one on the 13th. I was wondering what exactly is it about?
I think there's a date on your schedule that shows when the test is available. It's an
Yeah, but I want to know what is it about? Because there's a simulation quiz 2 available. I just don't know what it's about. Is it like
pull it down and look at it as soon as you hit that date. There's plenty of time for you to do it. And I think that they've changed the way they've done it versus what they did in the past. It is now an open book thing. And again, I think it's to try and enhance your ability to be successful with the game.
But it's based, I'm guessing it's based on the PDF of the instructions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I was just wondering that do I have to read some other lecture?
No.
If it's just the instruction, I can just read it again. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and that it's a nice thing that this is all self-grading for us.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right. So see y'all on Tuesday.
Right, likewise. Have a good one.
Professor.
Thank
Would
you all for
Thank you.
being involved.
Have a nice week.
Okay. Thanks, Yaniko.
Professor, would you mind repeating what you said about Tuesday? Something about what you expect on Tuesday?
On Tuesday, we're going to do this as an actual case study. So you have to look at the case itself and see what are the issues that need to be examined. For example, it's just a passing mention about Airtran Air, the purchase of that company.
Okay.
There is the possibility of going into the Northeast, which is a different marketplace than the Southwest. Northeast is always weather prone and there's a lot more traffic up there. And they're also looking at going international. And so there's pluses and minuses for each of those. So those will be things that we want to look at for sure. There are other things other headwinds that the company's facing as well.
Okay. And then we can submit today or tomorrow in regards to these 10 trade-offs. Do you want them just like brief bullet points, or did you want them
just
more
bullet
descriptive?
points are fine, because I'm going to look at this. Not going to be computer graded in any way. And
Okay.
If you don't get all 10, great, just submit them anyhow. If they look like they're duplicates, that's all right. I can discern that. I'm looking for the fact that you dig in and try and come up with some ideas, because this is a different approach. The
Right.
idea of the dependence on trade-offs.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
All righty.
You have a good night. See you next week.
Thank you.
Professor. So I have a quick question.
I want to see you. All I see is your glasses. Can you get there?
Sorry.
You are.
The lights are all off. So I was late into buying the case studies. That's why I just wanted to apologize. That's why I didn't engage today. And I'm like trying to catch up as they were discussing it.
Mhm.
I just read that we would lose 10 points. I was wondering if you knew where my grade stands right now.
Oh, well, you wrote a very interesting biography. You got points for that. In fact, I would like to get better acquainted with you because you have an interesting life story.
Yeah, I just didn't buy it with knowing my background. I'm very, I tried to be involved with my job just because, as I mentioned in my bio, like that's one of the statistics. So I try to stay very involved with my job so that I can advance in it. I ended up I ended up picking up a shift and totally forgot to buy the case study. That's why it passed my mind. And now we have class today and I'm like, shoot, that's what I didn't do.
Well, I hope you've got $17 set aside to take care of that, to get it, because you will need it for it's.
Yeah, I just bought it and I was skimming through it and it's a really interesting case study. So I do look forward to Tuesday because I like engaging. I feel like that's the way to learn now. That's what we have. And so.
Yeah. Well, there was another thing that I gave you points on too. I can't even remember what it is. So there's been 3 items that you've gotten points for. And I'm not sure that if you go in and look at grades, the thing that's called My Grades, you probably won't see part of it on there, but it has been recorded. It's just I'm having trouble getting it to respond the way I hoped it would. But you are an interesting statistic, and I'm very impressed with what you've overcome. And as I said, I'd like to learn more about you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot. I definitely am just trying to make it to that 3% because it's such a small statistic. So.
Well, I don't know whether you've picked up, but I do a lot of work in prison. I work with a ministry that goes into the federal and state prisons. And so I work with a lot of guys that, because I go in with a group of 30, 35 men. And one fellow that I have really gotten very close to is a young person who came out of the ghetto, and he has overcome all the odds. He's had nothing. He's been shot. He's had his parents were not parents at all. His grandmother's a drug dealer. And he's been able to come out of that and to make a success out of his life. And your situation, of course, is different. But I think it's very exemplary that you're making your way for your life. And I certainly want to support you in any way I can with that.
I appreciate that. That truly does mean a lot. The
Well, I
smallest
hope it
gestures. mean a
does,
lot.
and let me tell you, it's sincere. It's sincere when I tell you that.
I really do appreciate that. Yeah, that's why I was just worried about the grade because I made it to the dean's list and I